In 2019, when we launched our company, when we created our shares and issued them in the amount of 200 billion, we knew that DigiU was a long-term project and there was a lot of work to be done. And the period we were covering then was at least 10 years. Obviously, it is impossible or very difficult to predict political, economic, and basically any changes in the world over a 10-year period. As you remember, there was the pandemic, the rise and fall of cryptocurrencies, and various political crises. It was hard to predict, and we understood that by creating such a project, we needed to have room for maneuver. And of course, that's the only reason we issued such a significant amount of securities, 200 billion. And we said from the very beginning that we could change the number of shares, but naturally without issuing new ones. I draw your attention to this. It is clearly stated in our concept, which is our main document, without additional issuance, because there is already enough of it. And after 3 years and much experience, we arrived at the conclusion that the valuation of the company, its assets, is not adequate to the market. Or I would say, it's not consistent with the market. And naturally, we decide to have an independent valuation of the company and to bring our value to the market. So, we plan to have an independent valuation of all assets of the company in the next 2 years and to bring the value to the market condition. Well, that can be very good news for many people. Obviously, it is an essential step on the way to a possible public offering, on the way to that IPO, about which we hear a lot of questions from you, like when will you do it? Here, in fact, we are beginning to bring the company into a position where this becomes legally possible. Of course, the valuation of the company is not only an IPO-related thing. It is also an opportunity to attract investments from traditional funds and the possibility of some mergers and acquisitions. It is an integral thing of a really working business, especially of an international one. What do we have at the moment? The value of our share is 22 cents on sale. You can see that in your personal account. 200 billion shares. And by simple calculations, we arrive at a company capitalization of $44 billion. Obviously, this is not the reality. As much as some of you might like it to be, but it's not. And therefore, the first step towards a correct market valuation will be the activities that we will conduct on November 30, the end of this month. These activities will be as follows. We will allocate our shares to your personal accounts. That is, the number of shares will be increased by 11 times. And at the same time, the share price itself will decrease by 11 times respectively. Accordingly, your portfolios will increase by 11 times. I'm emphasizing this point. This is not an additional issuance. This is exactly the allocation. We are allocating shares from the company, which our investors will receive. There are the people who during these 3 years believed in the company, invested and promoted it. And naturally, as we always say, Any decision is made in the DigiU ecosystem in the interests of our investors and partners. Therefore, those who had time to build their portfolio before November 30, 2022, or take out an installment plan, will receive what I consider to be an incredibly large bonus from the company. Now, we still have some time for everyone to understand this process, to be able to talk about it and inform other people as well. Obviously, this process will have additional conditions. But before we get to them, we will listen to the opinion of Alexander E., our Chief Strategic Planning Officer. He has also prepared his strategic view of the situation. This decision, which was not easy, but quite on time. Hello, dear partners, investors, colleagues. We have decided to start transferring the valuation of the company to a more adequate state, in line with the market. And now we are taking the first step towards this. The reason why we are starting to do this now is because we have already started to communicate a lot with institutional players, investors, with potential clients of our solutions, and with venture capital funds. We understand better now the legal specifics of structuring these deals. What is required for any mergers, takeovers, exchanges of shares, stocks, and so on. And now the road to follow is quite clear. And that's why we have started this process. We see possible collaborations and investments from institutional players on the horizon of 1, 2, or 3 years. We are also considering such an option in order to gradually prepare ourselves for a possible IPO. But it's also not a quick process. And of course, it will require valuation by independent auditors. And to make current share price consistent with that valuation, we launched this important process. That is, we are becoming a little more visible. We are beginning to be asked adequate questions. They were coming from you, from our investors before. And we explained to you that we need this room to maneuver. And in my opinion, we haven't done it for nothing. We have preserved this space for movement. Now we are making our first move, and there is still room for it. In our view, the current valuation is not a market one, although there are no external audits or valuations yet. But we think that this valuation will still be overstated for now. Therefore, it is likely that we will continue to move in this direction, and it will allow us to structure our venture capital fund and other projects, including AVA, on a more serious level. The good news is that just yesterday we spoke about the project at the American session for American venture capital funds and business angels. We won the first place there with the AVA project. But that was only one step. The first place in the selection process for us to present our project at the next stage. Still, in our view, it's a great achievement. I think that this is positive news for you as investors. You will get 11 times more shares, which means that in the end, they will cost 11 times less for you. And the company ownership increases by 11 times as well. We always act with the interest of our investors in mind. And I don't remember any situation where we made things worse for investors. No. We are giving 11 times more shares to our investors and making it easier for partners to invite new investors, because the price of shares is now the same as at the start of crowd investing. It is therefore a great opportunity for people, your friends, partners, to join and buy shares at the same advantageous conditions as at the start of crowd investing. And of course, now is the best opportunity to buy more shares, close installments, and make new ones, in order to get 11 times more shares when this allocation happens. Alexander, as always, has accurately and quite briefly described all the benefits and the reasons why this decision is made now. A very good phrase. We have become more visible. We have become more visible where it was needed. With our projects, our ideas, our speed of development, we have attracted the attention of funds and organizations which, one way or another, are beginning to think about and consider possible partnerships and investments. Of course, this makes us very happy, and we have to be ready one way or another. And accordingly, these are the right processes in any case. So, now, let's talk a little bit more about the conditions under which the X11 procedure will be applied to your shares. I will call it that for the sake of simplicity. Basically, it is very simple. In your personal account, you have a balance of your shares. And this procedure will be applied to this very balance. That is, the shares you actually purchased, to the gift shares you once received, and to the bonus shares. So there is no difference. The principle is exactly the same as for dividends. If you have them on your account, then your portfolio will be increased by 11 times. It is clear. Second, there are quite a lot of people who invest in installments. A convenient, comfortable way accessible to many, which is in demand in our ecosystem. What will happen to them? Here, too, it's quite simple. If you have an active installment plan, all its values, including all bonuses, will be increased by 11 times. But what if for some reason, on the date of this increase, November 30, you have an overdue payment? If a payment is not made on time, then accordingly, this installment plan will be excluded. It will not be recalculated. The increase in your portfolio will only affect the shares actually purchased. It's very simple here too. If you are disciplined financially, if you make your payments on time, the company always acts in your best interest. And exactly the same principle was applied last month when distributing EVA tokens. So it will not be changed here either. Make sure that all your active installments are paid on time. And also, make sure that if you have a team, that people know about it. You will not get another chance. And what if you have a cancelled installment? We have such people too. You can restore it by November 30. You just have to make one payment. Your installment plan with all the bonuses will be restored and all the shares will increase by 11 times, including the bonus parts that were supposed to be on your installment plan. And it doesn't matter when you cancelled it. It is also straightforward. If you don't have time to restore your once forgotten, even maybe for some objective reasons, it will not be possible to restore it after November 30. You will not be able to restore anything that has been cancelled. You will be asked if you want to invest at the current price. And the price, I remind you, will be $0.02 by then, the same as it was at the start. Of course, it will also be profitable, but 11 times less profitable than if you restore it now. So, I highly recommend that you pay attention to it. And the following is just information for your understanding. Any purchases you and your investors make before November 30, 2022 will be increased by 11 times. This is something to keep in mind, both when promoting the project and building your portfolio. Maybe you have been watching the DigiU ecosystem for a year and are waiting for the best time to invest. Well, there probably won't be a better time. Make it happen before November 30, 2022. Right after this webinar, maybe in a few minutes, there will be a post listing those terms and conditions I mentioned. Well, and of course, with a summary of what we said during the webinar. I really recommend you spread that information around. Make sure you spread the word about us. And make sure your teams check their installments and don't miss out on this opportunity. Because it's profitable. And really, there won't be any more of that. These kind of reductions. As Alexander said, we still have room for maneuver. But the room for maneuver is that if within 2 years we come to an estimate of 4 billion, there will be no more such room. And I really hope for that. And the prospect that we will come to such a real market-based, confirmed valuation is very high. So, of course, there is still room. But we will do everything to be worth 4 billion or more in the next 2 years. Obviously, with your help, thanks to you and thanks to our expertise.